She was told James Robinson. And so she knew something wasn't right.
Brenda files a complaint with police, accusing Robinson, alias James Turner, of sexual battery.
We ended up documenting about 17 false identities that he used with various people over the years.
It just went on and on. The more you investigated, the deeper and more complex this case got.
Aliases, con games, violent sex. Police are now certain their con man is up to something more criminal, and the time to act is now. Days later, another woman comes forward and files a similar complaint, sexual battery plus robbery against John Robinson. With 2 accusations and search warrants in hand, police finally have enough to make an arrest.
We felt like this was going to be our probably last best chance to catch this guy.
On June 2nd, authorities descend on Robinson's home in Olathe, Kansas.
We were all a nervous wreck. It was just very tense and kind of a nervous time, I think, for everybody. He answered the door. We knocked on it. Was polite. Was, you know, kind of carefree. Invited us in. We told him that he was under arrest. We told him that we had actually been investigating him for quite a while.
The arrest warrant charges Robinson with sexual battery and robbery, but investigators waste no time raising the subject of missing persons. Lisa and Tiffany Stacy, Paula Godfrey, Catherine Clampett, and Suzette Troughton.
Robinson kind of turned pale. He started like almost hyperventilating. I remember he turned back and looked at me and he goes, "Jesus Christ," like that, and just kind of collapsed in the chair. I think it was a real shock to him, and I think he knew we had him. But when we walked him out of the house, you know, he picked himself back up and he was kind of back to his arrogant self. And he said, "You know, you guys are really making a big production out of this, aren't you?"
Police confiscate Robinson's computer and files dating back years. Leaving nothing to chance, they also secure warrants for several storage units he rents in Olathe, Kansas, and Raymore, Missouri, along with a family farm in Lynn County. It is at these 3 locations that investigators' worst fears are confirmed.
The Olathe storage locker proved to be a treasure trove of evidence. Birth certificates, driver's license, social security cards belonging to several of these women. The kinds of things that you don't give up unless you're dead. It sort of confirmed what we'd been thinking all along, and that is we're thinking, where are these letters coming from?
It's an impressive haul, but a good defense attorney can argue a simple fact. Where there's no body, there's no crime. The next day, a team hits the Lynn County farm, along with the Missouri Search and Rescue Canine Unit.
On the Lynn County property, we found a mobile home. We found a storage shed, some other items out by it. When we did the perimeter search where the shed was and the barrels were, we found specifically 2 large 88-gallon hazmat barrels.
We were actually going to move the barrels out in order for the dog could get a good scent there. And when I rolled the barrel out and brought it upright, then we saw blood coming out.
We ended up finding Suzette's body. She was decomposing pretty well by then. You know, you're kind of sad because obviously she's gone, but you're elated because you finally have got something on this guy.
Investigators open the second barrel and are stunned by what they find, a second body. But the corpse does not bear any resemblance to the other missing women they've been searching for.
The second barrel that we opened took us into a whole new realm of, you know, who's this and what have we gotten into now?
Now, instead of 1 murder investigation, we had 2, and we were starting all over with this one.
Meanwhile, across the state line at one of Robinson's other storage units, investigators have their own mystery to contend with. 3 more barrels. 3 more bodies in varying states of decomposition.
It was just a sick feeling. I was just dumbfounded. I remember, I just walked through that night and that whole weekend. I mean, I remember just in a haze.
Investigators wonder if the long search for Lisa Stacy, Paula Godfrey, and Catherine Clampett has finally come to an end. On June 12th, a pathologist identifies the body found in the second barrel on Robinson's farm as Isabella Lewiska, a 21-year-old Polish immigrant.
Isabella Lewiska had never been reported missing, and it came as quite a shock to that family. They thought she was traveling over in Europe, because John Robinson had covered his tracks in that case too, and they had received letters and emails supposedly from Europe.
According to an autopsy report, Isabella and Suzette Troughton both died from blunt force trauma to the head. The likely weapon, a small ball-peen hammer.
Most of the women had no defensive injuries, which suggested to us that they didn't know what was coming, meaning they were asleep, maybe looking the other direction.
By the end of June comes another shock. Autopsies completed on the remaining 3 bodies reveal they are not, in fact, Lisa Stacy, Paula Godfrey, or Catherine Clampett. On the contrary, these remains belong to 3 entirely new victims: Beverly Bonner, Sheila Faith, and her disabled 15-year-old daughter, Debbie, all killed by blunt force trauma.
When you think of the enormity and all the people that he killed, it kind of boggles the mind.
Even stranger, police find no missing person reports filed for any of the 3 new victims. An investigation soon reveals that Robinson seduced Beverly Bonner, a prison librarian, while he was incarcerated during the 1990s. The affair continued even after his release.
He pretty quickly discovers that she's getting $1,000 a month alimony checks from her ex-husband, and so he kills her and then starts pocketing her alimony checks.
Like Isabella Lewiska's family, the Bonners are shocked by the news.
They knew that something wasn't quite right, but she also was writing letters and cashing alimony checks. So they never quite could figure out if she was missing or not.
Sheila and Debbie Faith meet a similar fate after Sheila encounters Robinson in an online chat room.
I don't think that John Robinson had any interest in Sheila romantically. He just had an interest in their disability checks, and he started cashing their checks and cashed them for 6 years.
It now seems almost certain to investigators that Lisa, Tiffany, Paula, and Catherine are also dead. And while Robinson's motive for killing these women remains unclear, his ability to manipulate them was undeniable.
Robinson had an uncanny ability to get inside the heads of the women that he was preying on.
And getting them to write or sign batches of letters was the key to his deception.
He was able to convince these women to write these letters, to sign their names on blank pieces of paper, because what he would tell them is, we're going to be traveling in China or Paris. You're not going to have time to write letters. So what I want you to do is fill out some letters now.
But Robinson's audacity astounds even the FBI when they come across a strange and disturbing new tip.
It floored me. I mean, I think it just absolutely shocked everybody.
Chasing down a tip, authorities soon learned that Robinson helped his brother adopt a baby for $5,000 back in 1985.
One of the really shocking moments was when Mrs. Robinson handed me a photograph. And I looked at my partner and we were kind of stunned. We knew that, well, that's definitely Tiffany.
The photograph was given to them by Robinson the day he delivered the baby to her new home, just as Lisa and Tiffany Stacy were reported missing.
We believe that John Robinson met and ended up taking Lisa Stacy specifically for Lisa's baby Tiffany. And I imagine that he killed her. I mean, you look at Social Security, you look at credit cards, bank accounts, she's never been heard or seen from.
The Bureau soon makes a preliminary ID using Tiffany Stacy's footprint from the day she was born. It's a perfect match.
How possibly can you be that cruel, not only to kill the mother, adopt the kid out to your own brother, and actually charged him several $1,000s for it?
They thought everything was on the up and up. They had the papers, they had the adoption forms that looked like been signed by judges and attorneys. They had no clue.
The teenage girl, once called Tiffany, is shocked to learn the truth. But ultimately, she decides to stay with the Robinsons.
And they considered her their daughter. They had raised her, and they wanted to keep her. And they were victims of Mr. Robinson's, just like all these other women were.
On October 7th, 2002, 58-year-old John Robinson stands trial in Johnson County, Kansas for the murder of Lisa Stacy, Suzette Troughton, and Isabella LaVisca. He pleads not guilty.
I think John Robinson was the kind of person that thought that the world was his. I think he thought whatever he needed or whatever he wanted, he would get. It didn't matter who it belonged to.
In January of 2003, a jury sentences Robinson to life imprisonment for the murder of Lisa Stacy and 2 death penalties for the murders of Suzette Troughton and Isabella LaVisca.
I was elated. I could not think of a man that deserved to suffer the ultimate punishment than John Robinson.
As a cop, I mean, that's the highlight of my career. This is what you go into law enforcement for, and I feel great about the work we did. It was a great case that we put together, and we took a very dangerous person out of society.
To this day, no one can say for sure what caused Robinson, a family man and 2-bit con artist, to become a serial killer.
There's no clear picture as to say, this is why he turned out this way. You know, Robinson came from a middle-class, religious, suburban family. He has several siblings. You know, they're not involved in criminal activity.
He was somebody who didn't really have the ability to empathize with anybody. He was sort of conscienceless.
The game was everything. The con was everything. Winning was everything.
After his trials in Kansas, Robinson makes a deal with prosecutors in Missouri, a state that also has the death penalty. In exchange for a life sentence, he pleads guilty to the murders of Paula Godfrey, Catherine Clampett, Beverly Bonner, and Sheila and Debbie Faith. To this day, the bodies of Lisa Stacy, Paula Godfrey, and Catherine Clampett have not been recovered.
I think that there are more victims than the ones he's admitted to. Some of the families didn't even realize that their loved ones were no longer alive.